The Doom Train. A 25i NBOME and Salvia divinorum trip report. Posted by M to earwood.org, March 8th, 2018. I was well into a pretty heavy 25i NBOME trip when I decided to take a teensy tiny little hit of 25x Salvia that was bestowed upon me through some fortune. Exhaling, I laid back and felt all the oncomings of this. I immediately noticed the intense, sharp, geometric and orderly visuals of the NBOME begin to morph and round off at the edges, becoming more animated, organic and fluid, and went much further in depth. There was a real life and meaning to it now, aside from pretty colours and shapes, that is. Along with this, I felt the presence of someone, or more than one maybe, some unseen hand unfolding and revealing various pages of this reality for me. It was like a circus joke, a figuresque thing, in the corners of my perception, manipulating the world in front of me, turning the pages. I started feeling I was in a great festival of life in all the universe. From out of the corners of my perception, I felt the warm company of others dancing and morphing and frolicking around me. There was a very feminine presence to it all, the soul of womanly things, surrounding me, welcoming me to this world. I giggled and felt joyous. I sat in this experience, not feeling too out of place, as otherworldly as it all seemed. Slowly, the salvia wore off, and I was back into my N-bomb world. Now, the N-bomb world didn't seem so intense or deep as I had thought, compared to this little taste of salvia world. I just had my first trip within a trip. Then, I decided to take a normal hit and hold it in for a good time. Now, I don't know what I was expecting, but this was beyond anything I've ever thought possible as a state of being. Being conscious and witnessing what I did will forever have a lasting impact on my life. So here's my interpretation, putting this to words to the best of my ability, which oddly won't be that difficult compared to trying to describe, say, LSD or mushroom trips. Exhale. Now, I'm expecting something similar to what I just felt earlier, but with a little more zing, so to speak. God, I was wrong. So very wrong. Time freezes, and I realise something very big is about to happen. Very big. Oh no, I thought to myself. Too much? I knew it. This was it. Titanic was about to hit the iceberg. My perception of sound went to a flat silence, and all I heard or sensed was this massive machine approaching from far away. And by massive, I mean Unicron planet devouring massive. Just being aware of it was so weird. It was so big, and it felt like it sucked all the air out of the room, like a vacuum created on a beach before a tsunami. There was a low rumbling, and it rumbled with the force of a great machine that I could feel shaking me. The shaking felt physically real. It approached from the distance, making whirring and whizzing noises here and there. It was just so big. I could feel this machine was sweeping a route, like an ice resurfacer or a lawnmower. It got extremely close, and then whirred off along its path into the great distance, then coming back in a swelling ferocity. To and fro it went. Luckily, I was a little prepped for this from reading some great stories of salvia experiences, and I realised that I was about to be shredded up once the machine made its pass over me. But still, reading about it simply cannot prepare you. I waited, somewhat afraid now, only frightened at how truly serious and big this felt. What is it going to do to me? This machine was mowing the lawn around my mind, and it would soon mow over my very mind itself. Everything in front of me, in my physical space, began to push towards me, cluster up like an invisible hand was mashing my room into me. I stared at one spot on my wall, by a speaker and a can of beer sitting on top of it, and just waited for it. I felt this machine shredding right past me. I was afraid to look anywhere else and just wait for it to hit me. Then, my turn came. It unzipped the seams of my reality. I saw the cracks open up in the walls and little faces peering back from behind the scenes. The can of beer and speaker became an intersect of where this machine had sliced through, and reality peeled back from floor to ceiling. It was like a knife tearing open a curtain. There were cuts and slashes all over my walls, and it was so vivid. It was just like seeing a knife tearing through a curtain, but with even more fluidity than with cloth. The beer can had a face now like a cartoon. It was very much alive. All the objects and anything near these torn edges had faces and life to it, like little cartoon characters. I literally saw the very fabric of reality rip open, and the borders around and in it come to life. When I looked into the other side, it was almost like, oops, you weren't supposed to see that, you know. No data written here yet. I wasn't sure, but looking into or out of my room, I saw these puppeteers holding my room together. These chameleon-like camouflage ninja people. They posed and stretched out on all sides of the walls and corners, holding it together in disguise, like they were supporting a front or a hoax. When I noticed them, they shapeshifted and acrobated themselves elsewhere, and the room itself disappeared. This was a very brief and bizarre moment. I had no sense of inside or outside at all. Was I looking in at this, or was I looking out? It seemed like I was seeing the universe's safeguard of experiencing technical difficulties. We'll be back with you shortly, while the rest of the program loaded itself up. Looking back at this specific part though, I think I was just experiencing a space beyond my 3 dimensions and couldn't quite come to terms with what it was, and I was just witnessing the architects of these constructs move about, like I was backstage watching the acts play out. The shredding continued, or so I thought, but it was just gone suddenly. I was expecting it to get stronger and more intense, but it levelled off and faded out peacefully. Going back a sec, it's important to note that during the shredding phenomena, I could feel a very unique but distinct burning sensation on all the edges this machine was cutting, like open wounds. It felt like a fire to me, but not painful, just this fiery feeling in evenly cut folds. Then I realised that was it. I'm in Salvia world now, all the way in. It really wasn't that bad after all. It was just that serious impending onset of something huge about to happen that took me aback. But once I was there, I felt okay. I also felt taxed, like I'd reached the top of a mountain after a strenuous climb. I lay at the peak, exhausted and overwhelmed. I can't really describe much of the rest. I saw the fantastic inner workings of the nature of reality, all the little souls and people that work all the magic like a circus act. These creatures were very clown-like, nimble, cartwheeling and flipping and flowing here and there. I just couldn't keep up. They seemed shadowy and elusive. I got a glimpse of all this, and then the high receded. The entire time I just kept saying, "Oh my god, wow," to myself over and over. I have no idea. I didn't know it could be so big. At this point, I was just in too much awe to try to make sense of anything. I was just happy to know that I managed to get through it. I called this strong force a machine, mainly because of the sounds and vibrations I was getting from it. It was like a hedge clipper or buzzsaw. It had some very calculated and mechanised notions to it, but at the same time, it was just simply a huge surging force of energy. It was a very defining threshold between realities. One would have to actually experience it to understand how truly massive it actually feels. It also seemed finite though in a sense. I could sense its largeness, which meant it had a size, right? Well, maybe for another time. I know a lot of higher level trips describe being shot out or blasted out into space, whatever decorative words you want to choose. But for me personally, it felt like it all came to me. I didn't actually go anywhere. I was here the whole time. But the rest of it blasted into me, or the space that I know as reality. This was one of the most amazing experiences in my life so far. Well, that was a seriously wacky Salvia report right there. Obviously amplified big time with him combining it with 25i MBOME Obviously, the Salvia became a lot more dominant since that was the thing he sort of added onto the experience. If he was just on Salvia and then took 25i and let that take effect, the 25i would have had a more dominant effect upon the trip. But it definitely seems that they synergize in some very strange fashion. For those not in the know, 25i MBOME is a psychedelic substance of the phenethylamine class, similar to 2CI, and it produces an array of visually dominant and stimulating psychedelic effects when administered. It can be compared to, say, LSD in some sense, but it can be very different, the actual experience, and also it can be fatal at heavy doses, so yeah, definitely don't be doing any of this or insufflating it, taking any large amount of even a tab. Really don't even bother taking it in the first place. I'd say just stick to the traditional tab-based psychedelics of LSD, because they'll just, you're just gonna have a much better time and not worry about ending up in the emergency room, really. Actually, what's interesting is I just went on the user his Erowid profile, and he has a later report from February 6, 2019 called The Giant Lawnmower and Fireblade, which was another combination of 25i and NBOME and Salvia divinorum. I'm not sure if this is just him rewording the report and posting it again, or if he sort of had a very similar experience. It does sound like just an alternate take on the same experience, though, to be fair, but just adding a bit more stuff to it, so I'm really not sure what that's about. But if not, let's say that he did it again later on at a later date, he had sort of a different flavour of the same experience, the giant lawnmower type feeling of something big about to happen, and these sort of like fiery sensations on his like imaginary open wounds, as well as these sort of jester type cartoon creatures, a bit like from the game Cuphead that he describes in this report in the later one. So yeah, that'd be interesting to see if this unique combination of chemicals sort of produces that type of experience for most people. Although Salvia is just is the wackiest psychedelic of all time, and I've got to say, very much my favourite to read about. Obviously my very favourite and my most passionate ones to read are the sort of the God consciousness, super mystical, transcendent awakening experiences, but you just cannot beat a classic Salvia divinorum trip report, because they are just so entertaining, and they have all my favourite facets of a trip report: the entities, the reality bending aspect, and the sort of the quality of feeling like you're peeking behind the scenes, as if the curtain has lifted from the play of life, and you're seeing the machinations of what's going on, these weird machinescapes, this strange like energetic machine-like quality to reality. Not saying this is the truth of reality at all, but the truth of the Salvia world seems to be that. It seems to be this giant machine that's been operated by these strange jester-type clown creatures. He describes one of the clowns here as looking just like Bozo the Clown, but with much more serious demeanour in his later trip report. Yeah, very interesting little one here. I need to do more Salvia reports. The last one I did was like 4 weeks ago. I'm absolutely slacking, to be fair. Really not doing well on the Salvia front. I need to do one a week, because they are literally just the best ones for me. I can't believe I've not been doing more of them. They're so entertaining and fascinating. The more I read about it, the more I'm actually interested in doing it again, but it is a 50-50 sort of experience. It can go seriously awry, because it's just otherworldly. It's the most alien experience I think you can have on psychedelics. Obviously you can have like an even more alien experience than a higher dose of like any other psychedelic, because it can get as wacky as you want it to be, really. But with Salvia, no matter what dose you take, if you do have like quite a transcendent mystical type experience, you're guaranteed it to be some otherworldly alien type state of being, literally becoming like inanimate objects, like I talked about in the becoming a Cheeto report in the last one. That was really interesting. That adds a lot of Salvia type qualities to it. I need to find more of those Salvia reports where they literally become like a fucking like coffee mug or something. They're just absolutely mental. Yeah, another common aspect of it is like the fabric of reality, the machinescape sort of pressing into you and suffocating you, constricting you, literally like eradicating your whole body. There's a complete like sense of nothingness, but also punctuated by an everythingness as well. It's very, very strange, very paradoxical. Sort of touches on the heart of like the paradoxical nature of reality. Very, very fascinating stuff indeed. Need to focus way more on this in the future. I don't have much to say about the NBOME aspect to the trip report because he didn't really describe what it was like for him going in. He just said he was on NBOME and there was like sort of fluid geometric type colours and patterns and everything. But just combining those two heavy chemicals together is going to produce some mad experience. I'm not sure where he would have gone if he just was purely doing Salvia. Who knows? I still reckon he would have had his brain lawnmowered, to be fair. That's just a guarantee at this point.
So I hope you enjoyed this report, Psychonauts, and we'll see you in the next video.
Yeah, Terence McKenna's back again. What are you saying, lad? You alright?
I'm doing great. I'm just thinking about what the next trip report video's gonna be.
Alright, fair enough, lad. Yeah, it's good to have you. You might have to read out a full one day, that'd be quite funny.
That would be stupendous.
Right, well, you're doing my head in now, mate.